Hello dear viewers, myself Vaibhav Mishra, international rated player, 2016 Commonwealth bronze medalist, would like to welcome you to our expert analysis series on behalf of Premier Chess Academy. Here we are going to analyze all the 14 games of the World Championship matches that are being played between Jan Nepo, world number 2, 2795 rated player, and Ding Liren, Chinese number 1, world number 3, 2788 rated player, held at Astana, Kazakhstan. The World Championship match of 2023 has a historical importance, and also, as we all know, it's a bit of fight and bit of craze is there for this World Championship because of what happened in the previous year, 2022. Jan Nepomniachtchi in 2022 won the FIDE candidates that was held from June 16th to July 5 at Madrid, Spain, and was the obvious challenger to challenge Magnus Carlsen from the World Championship title. But Magnus Carlsen surprisingly denied to defend his title and made some obligation that he wanted to play against a younger opponent like Alireza Firouzja, and 2023 World Championship matches with Nepomniachtchi would have no significance. That led to FIDE finding a new challenger, and obviously FIDE come up with Ding Liren, the first Chinese player in the history of chess to challenge or to fight for a World Championship crown. This makes the World Championship matches even more interesting and really crazy. As we all know, in 2021, Magnus Carlsen actually won from Nepomniachtchi with a very big margin, +4 margin, in the World Championship matches that are held at Expo Exhibition, Dubai. And it would be a revenge time for Nepomniachtchi. But Ding, as we all know, is one of the most solid and toughest players to crack. And here we move on to game number 1, where Nepomniachtchi has got white and Ding Liren has got black. So specifically, it was like a lottery type of thing that who gets white in the first game. It's really not like obvious because there are 14 games that are going to be played. So obviously, each player is going to get 7 white and 7 black. So it will be a fair contest for the World Championship crown. And in this game, Nepo had its fair share of chances to win, but the game actually ended in a draw with Ding escaping in a stylish fashion. So moving on to the game actually opened with the normal e4 opening. It was e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Bishop b5 is a really interesting line. It's a Roy Lopez is the main line, and like all the top players usually apply that. There are many interesting lines here actually in the previous World Championship matches. As we see Caruana, Carlsen 2018, we look at Karyakin, Carlsen 2016. Many players have opted for the Burley, but here in this World Championship match, I think Ding opts for the main line with a6. And the main move here is bishop a4 as played in the game by Nepomniachtchi. But yeah, you can obviously take the knight and go for the Roy Lopez exchange, which is also interesting. And both players were really playing the opening fast. They were really thorough with their preparations. And Nepo had something upon his sleeve in the first game, as we could see here. Knight f6 was played now. Nepo castle, main move, bishop e7, and everyone was expecting a timid draw. But here, Nepo comes up with a very interesting idea. The main move here is, as we all know for the viewers, is that white just simply goes rook e1, protecting the e4 pawn over here, and threatening to take on bishop c6, and then take knight e5. So black plays b5, preventing the bishop from taking the knight, bishop b3. Now d6, a very important move in Roy Lopez. Now see, this bishop is very important as it put pressure on the f7 pawn. So usually in this opening, black players tries to go knight a5 next and get this bishop. So white would go c3, creating a space for the bishop. Black castles, and now usually white stops, bishop g4 with h3, planning to go d4 on the next move as the game continues. But in the game, Nepo did not play this. In the game, Nepo went for something very interesting. Nepo went for bishop c6, which was a really interesting idea here. Instead of playing rook to e1, Nepo went for the move bishop c6. A brilliant move, and sometime taking your opponent into the territory where they're not prepared is very important. And here Ding comes up with the best move, d capture c6. Okay, d capture c6 can also be played, but as we all know, after knight e5, they won't be able to play d6. Suppose say now white plays knight e5, you won't be able to play d6 in the future here because of knight c6. And it's unpleasant for black. So d takes e6 is good. And now Nepo protects the pawn with rook e1. But actually there are many games being played here. Rook e1 is not the most obvious move here. Here the most obvious plane is d3. The most obvious move supporting e4 and targeting the pawn on e5. Very similar, but here the rook on f1 has its importance as white in the long run tries to play f4. Knight d7. Like as you see in the game, this line is very famously played by Luke McShane, an English grandmaster, 2650 plus rated, very strong player. Knight c3, castles, king h1, rook e8, bishop to e3, bishop d6, knight d2, and white plans f4. Or else, in many lines also, I think there is a game between Kasparov and Splitter. There also, instead of playing f4, white opted for a different positional setup with knight d2. This is also interesting, trying to put pressure on the pawn on e5 by going knight c4. And after f6, we go knight h4, knight f5, and white will have a small advantage in all these lines. And it's very obvious that black did not wanted to play this kind of positions. But yeah, white has different choice of plan. White did not play rook e1 after bishop c6, dc6. White went for the move like rook e1, did not play d3. He went rook e1 here, and after this, black went knight d7. And here, white did not go for the d3 move and for the f4 plan because it's already moved the rook. So white went for a more aggressive move in the center, getting a majority on the king side. He went for d4. And very few games have been played here after queen d4 castles. Black castles because the g7 pawn was attacked, so protects it. White went bishop f4, keeping an eye on the pawn on c7. Very nice play, knight c5. Trying to trade queens. Yeah, trading queens is of no meaning for white because then black will have a double bishop advantage in the endgame and will have a small edge. But here white wanted to keep queens, went queen e3. And this queen is now a problem. After knight c3, rook d1, black will find it hard to defend this queen. This is the main point of playing queen e3. Here actually, all the games that have been played here in the database are with knight e6. This is the main move here that black has played. But I hope the bishop is blocked and that what kept Ding from playing this move. Ding did not play this move in the game, but knight e6, bishop g3, bishop c5, queen to c3, queen e7 is completely playable, finding a safe spot for the queen. And it was a really nice position for black. But Ding chose the move bishop g4, which is also interesting, which has his own ideas. And now after this, black is trying to go knight e6. So white went knight d4, threatening to go knight f5. Queen d7 was played, trying to develop the rook on d8, getting all the pieces in the game and putting pressure on the d5. Knight c3, rook d8. And now Ding goes for an interesting idea with knight f5. And here, black has two main choices. Black went for the move knight e6, but yeah, it was pretty obvious that black would also take the knight and play rook f8. But as you see, this is unpleasant because this bishop over here is stuck. The knight on c5 is almost hanging certain points. White can go queen g3 and put more pressure on the c7 pawn. So I think that what kept Ding from playing this move. And Ding was in deep thoughts around this point. He was taking 14 minutes, 8 minutes per move around this point and was feeling that he might have misplayed the opening a bit. But yeah, black was completely okay here as per the Indian assessment, and black was really doing good. So in the game, knight e6 was played, knight e7, queen e7, bishop g3. And here you could see we enter opposite colored bishop middle game, where it's very important to understand that the one who gets the attack or the one who has the initiative will have the advantage. Because now see, if this bishop starts attacking the pawns on the dark color, this bishop cannot protect it. It's on the exact opposite color. So now it's a battle for the initiative and who is able to give threats. And as you could see, white also has a pawn majority on the king side and black majority on the queen side is fixed by the double pawns. So this gives white a slight edge, which Nepo really built upon really nicely. Here in the position, black went bishop h5, which I think is a pretty dubious move with no idea. I think in the game, black should have played f5, straightforward equalizing, and black will have a lot of counterplay against the c2 pawn and on the f file. But I think black did not like opening up the position here and went for a more passive idea with bishop h5. f3 was played, nice move, trying to free up some space for the bishop and restricting the light square bishop. Black went f6. And here white could have immediately gone for the move rook a d1 followed by knight e2. But yeah, white also played few moves creating an escape spot for the king and improving his position of the king before he does that. That's completely fine here. In this kind of close positions, you can take our time. Bishop f7, rook d1, b6, nice move, trying to stop any sorts of future ideas of queen a7. a3 was played, stopping queen b4, a5, knight e2. Very interesting idea, trying to make sure that the knight is improved. Here the c3 knight was not able to do much. So white is trying to improve the knight and get it to f4 or d4. That's his idea. So here knight e2, rook d1, black tries to simplify into one minor piece endgame, which is very much the ideal plan for black to make a draw. But white here has an interesting idea. I'd like all the viewers to pause and think, what would white do here? So if you have come up with the move, rook to d3, brilliant answer. The idea is white wants to double up with queen d2 and take up the open file. Black went c5, trying to get his other pawn to c6 and remove it from the attack of the bishop. Queen d2 as planned. And here in this position, black should have played rook to d3. As we could see, the problem with not playing rook d3 is that white gets queen f4. If you take now rook to d3, queen d3, the queen is actually a bit misplaced. And after c6, black has an easy position to hold. Suppose say white goes queen a6, and black can just protect pawn on b6 with the queen, and it's a draw. It would be equal, it would end in a draw. And if a4 is being played, then bishop e8, covering up this and trying to go queen d8 or queen b7 at some point would be an equal position. But in the game, black played c6, and this gave white a small chance to use the penetrating idea. Rook d8, knight d8. As we could all see, queen d8 is not possible. It's a mistake because queen d8, knight d8, and bishop c7 would have given white a significant advantage, and almost white is winning here. So black went knight d8, white went queen f4, trying to clear up some ideas of queen c7. He has some ideas of queen c7 in the air, also queen b8, and white has a very pleasant advantage. b5, pretty obvious that black is trying to trade pawns on the queen side and obviously trying to stop queen c7 idea. So here, yeah, obviously white could have gone queen to c7, which is not bad. But yeah, white loses some advantage here because after queen c7, bishop c7, knight b7, the black pawns are defended and white does not find any sorts of advantage. After knight f4, c4, it's all good for black. This knight is dominated by the bishop, and this knight is protecting the pawn on a5, and white will find it tough to break the position here. So white went for queen b8, best move. And here in this position, I'd like all the viewers to pause. It's a critical moment in the game, critical moment. And here you have to find out what should black do to save the game. Black did not play the best move here in the position and ding went wrong. And white has an obvious chance of winning here. But white also missed the trick. So if all the viewers, you have spotted queen e8, brilliant, excellent idea. Queen e8 here is the correct move. The idea of queen e8 was that bishop c7 was being threatened over here. So after queen e8, when white plays bishop c7, black has a nice counterplay with knight e6, trying to trade queens, which white is obviously forced to do because the bishop is also being attacked now. And after trade, white gets the pawn on a5, but black can liquidate into a opposite colored bishop endgame with a chance of saving the game into a draw. Knight d4, bishop b6, and here again, black has to find the best set of moves, and the idea is very, very unique. Please do pause and try to look into the idea. So the idea is bishop f7. If you have found out bishop f7, excellent. Bishop d4, goes bishop a2. Very interesting plan, and trying to attack the pawn from behind. b3, bishop b1, a4, takes on a4, bishop c2, a5, and bishop d3. And black stops the white pass pawn. And with pawns on same side of the board, left at the king side, it will be very difficult for white to convert this position into a win. But in the game, Ding did not play queen e8. He went wrong with king at 7, and white was totally winning here with bishop to c7, knight e6, same plan, but here the queens are on the board, and this gives white a more or less chance to win the game here. Bishop b6 with a clear advantage, but Nepo did not play this set of moves, and Nepo went for bishop d6, and here black has some chances now again to save the game. Black went queen d7, nice move. The idea is that you cannot take the pawn on c5 because of queen d2. I guess this is what was missed by Dingley or Neponiachi. They did miss this move queen d2 over here, and they were finding it tough at this point to calculate all the lines. And here in this position after queen d7, Nepo went knight g3, thinking that bishop c5 does not work, so he went knight g3 trying to go f4. Black went knight e6, f4 trying to threaten f5, get this knight out and take the pawn over here, but then black played a brilliant move, h5, brilliant move. Excellent idea. If f5, black wants to mate it with h4. Now, again, like for all the viewers to pause here and calculate the line after f5, it's really interesting. If you can come up with the calculation after f5, feel pretty sure that you are in the world champion shoes and you're doing really, really great. So here, f5 would be met with h4. And if you take the knight, you obviously black takes first and takes on e6 with enough counterplay on the e4 pawn. And if white finds this brilliant move, knight h1, trying to go knight f2 to protect this pawn, black plays knight g5, saving his knight, knight f2, but here black again finds a brilliant idea that we have already seen in another line, same variation, bishop a2. This plan is such an interesting idea that players keep forgetting this, that the bishop can come into the white's position, get trapped, but anyway escape by attacking the pawns from behind. A brilliant idea shown by the engine, but yeah, this line did not happen in the game. Nepo played it a bit safe with c3, and then after c3, black played c4, and now there is no real threats as the c5 pawn is no more getting attacked, and this gives black a complete equality. h4 was played. White stopped h4, but after queen d8, black just tried to trade queens, and white denied it for a few moves, but after this, there is no point. White has to trade, and the game ended in a draw. Yeah, here black found out a brilliant idea. Knight b7, e5 was played by white, supporting the bishop. Yeah, it's pretty obvious you should not take. If you take, you give white a very strong pass pawn. So black gets the king in the game after king g8, king g3, bishop d7, bishop c7. Again, I'd like for all the viewers to pause and find the final equalizing move that didn't find to save the game. So if you have found out knight c5, congratulations, you have found out the right move. Bishop a5, yeah, it's possible, but then after knight d3, black gets the counterplay against the pawn on b2. e6 check was played, trying to deflect the bishop so that white would get c6, but yeah, it just liquidates into a equal endgame with opposite colored bishops, and with 5 pawns. At this point, after king g1, knight d3, players agreed for a draw, and first World Championship match has ended in a draw. So we are moving on to the next game with a lot of interest, with a lot of things to play for both players. And we will be hoping for a more tough and interesting fight in round number 2. Hope to see you all in the second round analysis. Thanks everyone. And if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe and follow our channel. See you soon. Bye-bye.